All right, let's jump into the running backs here. And once again, another big bye week, and this is a brutal one for running backs. Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, James Cook, Breece Hall, Chase Brown, the Jacksonville backfield with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, all on byes. All of those guys before the Jacksonville duo are top 20 running backs.
It is. It's ugly.
Matthew, what's the
strategy? What's even worse is not only is it ugly, there's no one else on the waiver wire where you sit here and you go like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of guys out, but look, like I feel better about the list of tight ends than I do about the running backs in terms of just finding production. Like we'll go through, we've got names for you, but like, ain't great. So in terms of the strategy, I think it's important for you guys to understand that waivers is all about context at this point. Like we've got a couple of weeks before the fantasy playoffs, and if I'm sitting there, and, I've got 7 wins, I've got 8 wins. If I feel pretty good about my chances of making the playoffs, I wouldn't panic drop somebody productive, even if they're on a bye this week, just to grab somebody who isn't great to try to eke out a win this week. I'm not saying anyone should ever tank, but you have to just look long term, and so it might be worth sort of taking it on the chin this week to be stronger down the stretch as opposed to weakening your team this week in order to try to make give yourself a 10% more better chance to win, but still may not. It's more dicey. I'd rather sort of, especially, again, if you're in win, you desperately need to win, then you got to do whatever you got to do to win this week. But if you're above 500, if you're looking at your league and like, I got a pretty good shot at making the playoffs here, I'm not worried about it, then I might think about not dropping anyone. I'm just going to keep my team. And I might think about, hey, let me look at my running backs and let me try to get some insurance running backs. The other thing that happens during Buy-Mageddon type weeks is that people will panic drop good players. They'll drop somebody. They might drop like Darnell Mooney, right? They might drop Darnell Mooney. He's dealing with a hamstring. They're going to be on a bye this week. Hey, maybe try to sneak through Darnell Mooney. Well, grab Darnell Mooney. Yes, he's not going to help you this week, but like he's been a very productive wide receiver over the last couple of weeks, right? And so grab him, stash him. Not going to help you this week, but all right, I've already decided I'm taking it on the chin this week because I feel good, and now you're solidifying yourself for a playoff run with a guy that we think is pretty productive in Darnell Mooney, just to give an example, right? And the other thing that I'll just mention here, again, it all depends on sort of how your league operates, but one thing I like to do is there's 2 other things I like to do. Number one is that if there's no one great on the waiver wire this week, and it depends, again, what you're looking for and how deep your league is, one thing I will do is I won't actually make a bid, right? And I'll just sort of wait to see who gets dropped, because then in some leagues the way they work it is that you move up in the waiver system, and so then you can claim the guys tomorrow that have been sort of panic dropped. Yep. And if I have to panic drop somebody, if I have to drop, this guy's productive, I don't want to drop Darnell Mooney, but I desperately need somebody, then what I would do is I'd wait till Saturday night to drop Darnell Mooney, right? Especially like if it's a kicker, it's a defense, it's a tight end, and there's no one great. I'll wait till Saturday night so that at least that person goes on waivers and isn't eligible for somebody else to get at until the following week. The one caveat to that is that if you play on Yahoo versus other platforms, if you don't play a game, you're a free agent, right? If you're on bye, and so that's another way to sort of manipulate the system. Just as an example, like I was able to get Tommy DeVito in our league when the news broke because he wasn't on waivers because the Giants had been on a bye last week. So I was able to drop Parker Washington for him. One of the great moves in fantasy football history, dropping Parker Washington to pick up Tommy DeVito. That's the League of Assholes. There we go.
So for this week's help, we start with Jerome Ford on the short week, Jay, against the Steelers. He's 61% available, and as this Browns offense hasn't gotten Nick Chubb fully going, Jerome Ford still stays relevant.
Yeah, I think the key here is that the potential for receiving volume. You saw that he outproduced Nick Chubb against the Saints, going 4 for 29 through the air. The Browns are not a very good team right now. They're going to be underdogs in most of their games the rest of the way, and so you expect that Ford should get some dump-offs.
Steelers allow the 7th most receiving yards per game to running backs, and Jerome Ford has a 12% target share this season.
Roschon Johnson next up on our list, 92% available. The trade heard around the world, guys, in League of Assholes. Tucker Kraft for Roschon Johnson, Matthew. Everyone's talking about it.
Well, by the way, it made sense for whoever got Roschon Johnson because with the firing, I'll tell you what. Well, listen, with Shane Waldron fired and Thomas Brown, new offensive coordinator, in his first game calling the plays, Thomas Brown, 44% of the snaps to Roschon Johnson. He handled 10 of the Bears' 24 running back touches. He's getting 80% of the team's red zone rushes against Green Bay, including 2 of the 3 goal line carries. He cashed one in. They're using him in close, so he's got a chance at a touchdown. He's got a bigger role under Thomas Brown than he did under Shane Waldron. Roschon Johnson's available in 93% of leagues.
I literally traded him to Producer Pete because Producer Pete sent me a follow-up text message, and I just didn't want to talk about it anymore. And so I was just like, all right, I don't care. Tuck it off, Roschon Johnson. This is about a wash.
There you go. Well,
it was a mistake.
It was good. It was smart by backup producer Pete, just to be just annoying enough to give me the trade just to get him out of your hair.
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it.
Cam Akers, 83% available. He's got the Bears. He caught the touchdown last week, Jay. And still, every year it feels like he ends up back on the Vikings and somehow on the field a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the key here
is really remarkable.
Aaron Jones is one of the most injury-prone running backs in the league, and this is a top 10 offense. And so Cam Akers, it's not a high chance, but there is a chance that come the fantasy playoffs, he could be the lead back for one of the best offenses in football.
Yeah, by the way, over the last 4 weeks, the Bears are 28th in rush defense. He's very quietly had at least 12 touches in back-to-back games. Jones getting banged up in both of those games as well. So there's always the opportunity as well. The last thing I'll say here about running back waivers here is that as earlier in the year, you don't really love getting insurance running backs, but now I think as we head towards the playoffs, we've only got a couple of weeks, I am prioritizing insurance running backs for my own team. So again, if you have Aaron Jones, you should be grabbing Cam Akers. If you have DeAndre Swift, you should be getting Roschon Johnson. Try to prioritize. You want to solidify the running back rosters on your team because we've got less time for those running backs to sort of blow up, but at least you're locking in production and you're not chasing the waiver wire if you're in the middle of a playoff run and one of your guys gets hurt.
Our last group of running backs is the Raiders' backfield, as both Alexander Mattison is dealing with an ankle, Zamir White dealing with a quad. They both left in the second half on Sunday. We'll keep you updated on injury updates with them, but Jay, Amir Abdullah and Dylan Lobby, to the surprise of no one, they're 100% available. One of them could factor in against Denver, especially really in the pass game is what you're hoping for with these guys.
Reach the Dylan Lobby segment of Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Look, these are guys who may see the field in an NFL game and in theory may get some usage. It's not a great matchup, but with Mattison and Zamir White both banged up, these guys should probably be rostered in deeper leagues just because they may get on the field.
Right. It's like, tell me you're desperate without telling me you're desperate. Adding Amir Abdullah.
Like when I picked up Easton's stick for a week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.